Squatta is Officer of 1,000 Yawa out of Atlanta School. We got a school here in Atlanta, 3353 Glenwood Road. That's in Decatur. We have classes every day, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9. And we had a Sabbath class from 2 to 1. What we're going to bring out today is we're going to bring out the Africa's involvement in the slave trade. Right? Larry, I always start off with a little bit of question. What's some common things that people think about when it comes to Africa and the slave trade? Okay. Go ahead,
We was bought, we was sold.
We bought, we was sold. Anybody else? Anybody else know anything? I know you know something, sis. Well, a lot of people think that our oppressors just came to Africa and just started snatching up black people, right? People think. But what a lot of people don't know is that Africans sold us. We was bought and we was snatched up, kidnapped while we was working on fields, right? And they sold us over to slavery. They brought us to the West Coast because we was inside of the middle Africa, because that's where a lot of that's where we migrated from when we left Israel, right? A lot of us migrated into Africa, the center of Africa, right? So then, here's something that everybody should know, but we aren't told. We think that we were African, right? We think we were all African, but everywhere they said that the people that they sold were not of the same tribes, were not of the same people. They were considered outsiders. You get me? So it's always interesting that we always looked upon like we supposed to be African, but they don't think of us as African. They never consider us as African. We don't have no type of brotherhood when they come over here. They look down upon us, right? The same way they look down, like you gotta look down upon somebody to make them a slave, right? They look down upon us. That's why it was so easy for them to sell us into slavery, right? All right, let me get this. See if I can get this part. This is right here. It says I was looking at involvement. It said Africans played a direct role in the slave trade, kidnapping adults and stealing children for the purpose of selling them through intermediaries to Europeans or their agents. Those sold into slavery were usually from a different ethnic group than those who captured them, whether enemies or just neighbors. Y'all see that? We were different ethnic groups. Africans did not sell Africans. They didn't see us as the same people. It wasn't Nigerians selling Ghanaians. It was them all getting together selling Israelites. They didn't see us as the same, man. All right. Now, let me see, where was I at? Can somebody read for me Luke chapter 21 and 20?
21:20.
Somebody else on the phone?
I got it.
All right, go ahead.
All right, Luke 21, chapter 20. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is not.
So he said this, I brought this out when I was teaching about, when we first started coming, we used to first start leaving out, right? I mean, we was having a lot of all of the rebellions, we was rebelling against the Romans, right? But Christ said this, he said, you know that the desolation of Jerusalem is coming. That's why he said it's not, that means near, right? Read the next one.
21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto it.
So now he's saying the people that were in Judea, it said they should flee to the mountains. The mountains was Africa, right? Now don't get lost now, because everybody gonna say, okay, Africa. People start getting like, that's the land, that's the motherland. No, we was fleeing from the Romans, man. This wasn't our land. We already had our land. We was fleeing from there, right? And it said, and let them that are in the midst of it depart out. So everybody that's there, that's in the mountains, let them leave too. And let them that are in the countries enter. And you said, and don't let the ones that are in the countryside, don't let them come into Jerusalem either, because it's about to be hell coming, right? Keep going.
22. For these be the days of vengeance,
Mm-hmm.
that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
So this is the days of vengeance. This is the vengeance that's coming upon us, man. Right? This is the days because we decided to sin against the Most High. There's the vengeance coming. All right? Okay, I'm gonna read this. This is in what is it? The British broadcast channel or whatever. So it says roles played by leaders of the African societies and continuing the trade. The Asante, which is the Ashanti people, the empire dominated the area known as the Gold Coast, Ghana. They traded in gold as well as slaves. They fought many wars to defend and expand their empire. So just like why we want to call yourself Ashanti. Ashanti people, they wasn't great. They was buying and selling you up, man. All right. The impact of the Atlantic slave trade was felt across all levels of African societies, but its effects were different for different groups. Kings, elites, and warlords, that was one group. Middlemen, traders, and merchants was another group. Laborers and subsistence farmers. It's like, I guess they were feeding the people, right? Kings and warlords. African slave sellers grew wealthy by selling captives to European traders on the coast. They were able to deal on equal terms with European traders. On the African side, the slave trade was generally the business of rulers or wealthy and powerful merchants, concerned with their own selfish or narrow interests. At that time, there was no concept of being African. Identity and loyalty was based on kinship or membership of a specific kingdom or society, rather than to the African continent. See, it was easy to be that at this time now, they can have some African pride, right? Because they got the Israelites out of there. They got who they really want in there. They got Caucasians in there. Now, if you know some Africans and Caucasians, they love each other. They love each other deeply. It's ridiculous. Like, they don't, like, okay. Now, you as being a black person, you should all, like, I know we people in the truth, I'm talking about the people that's not in the truth. Why would you want to deal with an African, right? But Africans look down upon you, and they think higher of your oppressor than they do of you. But you think you're supposed to be a brother with them. Don't let Wakanda fool you, because they would call them colonizers. They ain't how they feel. They love them colonizers over there. Like, the only place they may not like them as much, but it's still like a part of them that do, is like South Africa. Because they went really and oppressed them even harder. They showed a lot of their oppression in South Africa. But everywhere else, they love them over there, man. They probably worse than black people almost to an extent. They love them over there. So it's like, I had a story I told one time, but it's like I had somebody that I knew. Well, I still know of him, but he was in the world, right? He was telling me about things like he got an African wife. She from what's that place? Somalia, right? She's Somalian. If we supposed to be brothers, us and Africans, right? They won't even tell like his family, like her father, won't even admit that he's African American. He tells everybody that he's Ethiopian. That's what he tell everybody. But he said if he was white, she wouldn't have had it. There wouldn't have been an issue. That tells you something. They love them colonizers more than they love you. All right. Let's see here. States based on slavery grew in power and influence. For example, the kingdom of Dahomey, that's what it sounds like to say, huh? Dahomey, became one of the most prosperous nations. Total receipts from slave exports were an estimated 250,000 per year by 1750. 250,000. Y'all know how much money that was in 1750? No, I don't know offhand. I'm just saying. Just think like when we was younger, we used to be able to buy a bag of chips for 25 cents. That same bag is like $1 now. I'm only, 30-something years old? You know what I'm saying? And I was a kid, I was able to buy that. Now think about 1750. This 250,000 was probably about the equivalent of probably about 15 million.
Sir, if I may.
Go ahead.
If I may, it's real heavy, sir. You know, I know some, you know, even when I was growing up, you know, I used to be speaking to a lot of elderly folks, and they used to tell me they used to buy a bottle of Coca-Cola for 10 cents, a dime. And that's when they had the glass bottle. You know, it cost a lot of money to produce that. That was 10 cents.
God, 10 cents. Let me see if I can find out. Go ahead.
You know they used to have a $500 bill back in the early 1900s. You heard seen that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They stopped making them. Like a $20 bill, they got a $500 bill. But that bill today is worth $10,000.
It says right here it's $10 million. 10 million, 250. $10 million. So that's how much money it was getting from us. Go ahead.
So do you feel like the Most High has already, I guess, placed a judgment on them, the reason that they go through, like the family, then you see them on TV asking you to support a child, so they already like the judgment for selling us and doing the things that they did?
It's part of it, but they're gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. That's kind of like, and a lot of that is scams anyway. That's not really going to them, really. So like all of those, like they'll tell you like, like to have those type of funds, you only need to spend like 14% of whatever the money you gather to that cause. But then they'll spend the money on bus tickets, traveling, eating. So basically nothing goes actually to the causes. That's why I never donate to what they say, like you donate $1 to this. So basically you give them $1, less than a cent probably actually goes to the actual cause. The rest of it gets eaten up in whatever they do. That's why churches do it too, but if you ever notice what rich people do, they'll take $50,000 and donate to this person's charity, and he'll donate $50,000 to his charity. You know why, right? So that they can basically make money disappear. That's why when you used to go to church, he would say, we need to raise up some money to give to this church right here, and they're going to give you the same amount of money back, right? Because when you get a donation like that, you ain't got to write it up as like an income. See what I'm saying? The tax laws, the way it works when it comes to money like that, you don't. It's the way you can make. So he just basically put 30 grand in his pocket. That's the like nature of like nonprofits. You know what I mean? And I might be a little off on the percentage, like 14%, but it's something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's relatively low to how much you're getting. It's like, I know it's less than 20, but I think it's right. I think if I remember correctly, this was 14%, and I learned that like 15 years ago. So it could be even lower now. Go ahead.
Colonel Concert, if I may, it's a real heavy point. You know, I just found out recently, I'm not, 100%, I think it's about 60 or 40. Forgot which is which. But you could take about 60% of it and put that into operational costs, and the other one you take it for yourself. But these devils, they got ways so you could take 100%. You just donate it to another nonprofit, 501c3, and you can keep all the money, not pay any taxes. That's how if I may, that's how they stole $12 billion when they donated the funds to Haiti when they had an earthquake.
Yep. That's how they do it. Like I seen like videos of what's the place, what's the government agency that always, FEMA. I seen them, they riding in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, all of them ride nice. That's where all the money goes. It goes to them. They find ways to eat it up so that they don't have to pay taxes on it, and they give it to other people. That's all it is. Go ahead.
It's like, recently with Black Lives Matter, Tamika Mallory and all them, they got the Caucasian looking guy that runs it. They got they exposed. They got like they all just recently bought $1 million homes.
Oh yeah.
And,
I don't doubt it.
So it's the same old game.
I don't doubt it. A billionaire is actually the person that owns that company.
Black Lives Matter.
We don't. Well, he probably ain't on the books, but you know how you can set up a business in your rib's name.
Right.
That's all it is. It's a billionaire that actually runs that company. So when I think of his name, I'll say it, but it's a billionaire that actually runs that company. It's not ran. They kind of like. It's like they rule it like how they rule, like Puerto Rico, or they rule another country. They say, okay, the little small matters you get to handle, but you got to stay in this box I make for you. You can't go out of this box what I want, but these little things so you can feel like you got control, but you still got to do what they want you to do. And that's kind of how they rule stuff. You know what I'm saying? They did the same thing with us in Judea. It's the same strategy. They put your leaders up that they want the rule, because they doing you have a leader like, okay, you agree with me on what I do, right? I'm going to make you the leader of whoever this particular group of people is. Me and you, we in agreement. We got an agreement. I'll let you have your little power. You get to do, these little matters I don't really care about. But I know where your heart is. You know what I'm saying? I know what you're going to do when it comes down to it, right? I know you're going to make moves to make me richer. That's what it is, so. All right. Going back to it. All right. States based on slavery grew in power and influence. For example, the kingdom of the homie. Oh, yeah, I already read that. African rulers largely maintained and dictated the control and supply of captives to the Atlantic slave trade. The impact of the trade was to increase individual fortunes in the short run, but through competition with each other's, rulers could have their powers reduced or eliminated as well as strengthened. Right? In the long run, the scale of the Atlantic trade caused instability and collapse in many African states. Anybody know why this happened? Maybe don't look at me crazy. Y'all should know. Come on now. Why did it happen? Go ahead.
Yeah, but I see,
That's
how are y'all checking in? It happened because we're not the same people. So
think you missed it. I think you missed the question. It says, okay, the question I'm asking is, in the long run, because the scale of the Atlantic slave trade, it caused instability and collapse in many African states. Why did it cause the collapse? The slave trade. Go ahead.
Just like today, the people that's doing the major consuming and all that are us Israelites. You know what I'm saying? So when you take the people that's making the product and buying the product away from your society, you're taking a loss.
Get a brother hand. That's it right there. They sold the Israelites. That's why they had instability. Because anybody knows whoever owns the Israelites is going to rule the world. That's everywhere, right? Think of Egypt, the Persians and the Medes, the Romans, the Grecians. Not name anymore. Whoever owns the Israelites owns the world. Pretty much owns the world because we are the world. Y'all get me? So whoever owns us and got us in their country, and they ruling over us, they gonna rule over the earth. So he's right, because we the consumers. We also are the ones that make everything. They don't make things. What inventions has Africans? What African invention do you know of? Go ahead.
What you bringing out is so heavy. You know that they are not inventors and scholastic type people, because the last of their major schools that were built when we were when we were there, you know what I'm saying, escaping the Roman captivity. That's when their last educational systems got built. That's when the Israelites were there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They're not smart like we are. They're not. They just, like we naturally smart, like we force ourselves to be dumb. But how many, do you know of anybody that's in prison that is better than the Wall Street journalists? The Wall Street people that be on Wall Street, we got black people that studied when they had time in prison that's better than them. Somebody says, Salaki?
Kind of, sir, if I may, the Africans, the Hamites, they invented fly catchers. And that doesn't work.
I knew somebody was going to say something like that. I knew it was coming. But yeah, they don't invent nothing. They don't make anything. So when they got rid of us, their country started collapsing. Y'all get that? And then another part too, they made it so much of their economy of getting slaves that also once they stopped getting slaves, it crashed their economy as well. So it was like it was a twofold thing. So it was that, and then they didn't have any more producers. They didn't have anybody else making the stuff to make their countries wealthy. Because then we was all sold to America, and now America was getting wealthy. Their pockets was getting big, deep, right? Went over to Puerto Rico. They said they had jewels washing up on the sand. They went and got all it. You can't find a pretty rock over there now. It's like nothing. They got rid of all of the jewels that was washing up on sea in Puerto Rico. So, you know what I'm saying? They wanted to get all of that from us, man. All right. Let's see here. The middlemen, traders, and merchants, the kings and warlords needed points of sale, and Europeans needed access to sources of slaves. Some African slave sellers became extremely wealthy from the expansion of the slave trade networks. A group of merchant princes developed in response to the European reliance on African intermediaries. These were often the sons of Afro-European parents and commanded large bands of armed men. The slave trade was incredibly labor intensive. Thousands found employment as porters, interpreters, guards, soldiers, and peddlers. So people think if this was just like a, like a snatch mission, they just come snatch you up. No, this was a whole. This was trade. This was like how we think of now, how we got all of the ships that go out and they come back with goods. They go out with goods and come back in. This was us. We were just in the ships at that point. It was on that scale. See what I'm saying? And they became wealthy, just like a lot of people that's wealthy is exporters, right? Exporters and importing. People that's in that business got deep pockets. And that's what they were doing. Right? The laborers and substance, I don't know, something about this word just throwing me off. Subsistence farmers. The proportion of African villagers actively involved in the slave trade was small. But in villages where slave raids took place, the impact was so large as to be difficult to quantify or overstate. The attention to the effects can be split between those that were taken and those left behind. The most significant impact on the Atlantic slave trade was on the individuals enslaved. So the people that were left behind, they felt the way against the people that was taken. So like I said, how was the purple homosexuals? They said that all the people over in the west coast of Africa is Israelites, right? But y'all seeing this is clearly telling you that it's not. And this is from BBC. This is Britain stuff. Britain is a lot of times more accurate than the United States. A lot of people don't know that. Britain, the BBC network, they got it a lot more accurate, right? Implications on Atlantic slave trade for Africa. Reallocation of the resources of African economies towards raiding. It can constrain the economic development of African states, encourage ethnic and social division, provoke a culture of political violence and disregard for human life, created widespread attitudes of racism and contempt for Africans, right? They're talking about for us, they keep calling us Africans, but they make it a contempt for us, right? The effects of the slave trade vary wildly from one region of Western Africa to another. Some Western African societies may have been wholly uninvolved in trade with the Europeans. Some may only mainly traded commodities other than slaves, and others who did engage in the sale of slaves for the Atlantic trade did so only marginally or briefly. But where societies did engage in the slave trade, they did so as raiding for people was more attractive and profitable than the capture of land. The ones that took part of it, it was profit. It was better than getting land. All right. Any questions at all on that?
That whole transatlantic slave trade lasted for 200 years.
It was longer than that. It lasted since the whole slave trade was since 1492. Mm-hmm. It's been since then. Yeah, it's been then because, all right. I mean, I'll break it down because I'll probably bring it out in another history class, but I'll break it down briefly. But 1492, they came over here to North and South America. So they came to the Americas, right? When they came over here, they seen that it was people over here, and they said we could make them slaves. They seen them. They came back to their land, and then when they came back over here again, they brought battleships. They brought soldiers with them to come take over this land. So a lot of things people don't even realize. They use the Bible. Like people think that they was trying to find a new trade route to India. That wasn't true. They knew the Israelites was over here. They used the Bible, the book of Esdras, to know that it was people over here. that the Israelites came over here. They knew this land was here. Go ahead.
It's like that's depicted in the movie 1492.
Mm-hmm.
You see they got a piece in there where you the second Ezra.
Yep.
You know what Israel was lost tribe, you know where the money is.
Mm-hmm.
The promised land.
Yep. And they knew that if they was to make them slaves, that would make them wealthy. Right? So they came over here. So they started taking slaves from over here. I think they came to Puerto Rico first, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember this. Maybe it was Dominican Republic. Yeah. They went there and they started taking people out. So that's when the Atlantic slaves started. Atlantic slave trade. They was taking people from over here to Europe. Right? And they was making them slaves over in Europe. You don't hear a lot about that part. They didn't do it as much because they was sending more and more troops down there to take over the Hispanics. Right? They was kept sending more and more people that way. That's why you didn't hear more about them coming this way, right? And then at some point when they were doing that, like in the 1500s, they started sending black people that was in Europe over there as slaves. So the part about Africa, that didn't even happen to the 1600s. At least not in mass. You know what I'm saying? You can't go 100% by history, what is written down, because not everything will be written down, and everything won't be written down chronologically. You know what I'm saying? But at least in mass, they didn't start shipping people over from Africa until the 1600s. All right? But before that, it was people coming over here from, they were sending people from like the Caribbean to America, America to the Caribbean, the native people. They was like, it was more concentrated over here, and they were just bringing more soldiers here because they was trying to colonize the place. So they're not gonna send, how they gonna send slaves over here if they ain't colonize the place, right? Because, well, they did try, but guess what happened? Like when they did, it was like, that's what I'm saying. They did send a few, but what happened was, like you can look at this book called Black Indians. Y'all should really read this book. But it tells you about when black people and Indian people got together, which we all the same, we all black, but I'm using that to classify the different tribes. When we came over here with the native people, we got cool with them. We married into their family, everything. And then we was running and we was fighting wars against the oppressors. We was fighting against them side by side. That's why for like 100 years, they stopped bringing us over here. Because they just said, we called each other, they called us their brother from across the water. That's what they called us. So then we came over, we was good to go, we was fighting back, and then they took them about 100 years to get a grip on it. And then that's when they started shipping us over here. Because at that time, I mean, it still was battles and it still was rebellion, it still was all of that. But it was more manageable, I guess you can get, you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't at that time, it was a lot more of us than it was of them. And then in the 1600s, it started becoming a lot more of them than it was. Get what I'm saying? So, because everybody came, like it wasn't, people think of what, like whatever place that Christopher Columbus was from, they think that was only people that came, but the Dutch came, the French came, the Spaniards came, the Portuguese, all of Europe was coming over here. That's why they speak Portuguese down there. They speak Spanish and a lot of the Spaniards. Great Britain was doing English. It was like a splitting of all of those things. So that's why, like in Haiti, they speak French. Canada, they speak French too, a lot over there. That's why, because those are the places that they went to, right? Now, Great Britain won a lot, and the Spaniards won more. That's why it's more Spanish, it's more English. So, but French, they came over and took over a part. A lot of the French, they sold a lot of their land back to like Great Britain and America and all of that. They sold a lot of their land. The Portuguese concentrated more so on the South America. So there's a little bit of that history. But,
So you said that the Indian, Native Americans, they at one point were helping us.
Yes.
We were fighting together. Okay.
yes.
And then after that, where were they at? Like when they got under control? Were they more so on the West Coast when they got everything under control? When the oppressors got everything under control?
I mean, they didn't leave, but like, okay, it's they like, you know how when they attack on all fronts. So like, I'm trying to think, like, it's so much, like I'll be skipping over hundreds of years, but basically like we still were fighting, but we were fighting alongside each other, but it was being squelched little by little here. They would go and get a whole city, turn them into slaves. They don't even know they're Native Americans no more. A lot of black people don't even know they're Native American until they really do some research. They don't even know they're Native American because the Native Americans closer on this side would look like us. The Native Americans on the West Coast were a little lighter tone. For the most part, not all, but for the most part, they were lighter tone, right? Just like sometimes you could say like in the North it might be more light skinned people, and the South might be more dark skinned. It's kind of like that, but it's still light people mixed in, dark people still going to be like that. But it's like they were more lighter over there. It's just the way the tribes moved, right? And if you stay mating with only your tribe, your tribe is going to stay one type of complexion for the most part, and that's it's called genetic bottlenecking. That's what you call it. Like if you stay with one tribe, you all start looking alike because you really are closer than you are apart. You start being like, even though this person, you might have not been in part of that family a long time, you know, but y'all are really almost like cousins, right? Because you all in the same tribe, you share a lot of the same genes. So that's what that is. And if they stay in the same tribe, they're going to look more alike than over here. But now we mix around so much, you don't see it as much. That's all the difference is. But over here, they were typically more dark-skinned. And on the West Coast, they were typically a little lighter. That was the only difference. But we got over there with them Mexicans. We was fighting. We went down. They just squelched it little by little. So, like, it was a big wars we used to fight in Mexico. Mexico and Texas, we fought a lot of wars against our oppressor. We ended up losing, of course, but we fought a lot of wars. And then they end up using the Native Americans. They used the traders pretty much. They would like, influence them with money. Start telling them like, hey, we'll give you money, we'll give you land. The ones that, after they, you oppress somebody so long, they like a little relief. You know what I'm saying? You start offering money, they take the money, and they start hunting us. So now when they start hunting us, the slave owners start telling the slaves, well, nah, they hunting y'all. Y'all don't want to be on their side either, so they cause division. So that's why we don't like each other even to the day. That's why we don't like each other even to the day, because our oppressor caused that division between us. Because he seen how powerful we were. Like, I ain't gonna get too far, but what's the Black Wall Street? Y'all think it was just black people. No, it was black people and Indians. The Seminole Indians and African Americans, quote unquote, was over there in Black Wall Street. They seen how close we got together, what we can do, so they always wanted us separated. So that's where that comes from. All right. Other questions? That answer your question? All right, let me know. All right. That's an article right here. It's about somebody. He said her Nigerian great-grandfather sold slaves. Ain't that who they love, them Nigerians? Love them Nigerians, right? Right? This is a Nigerian journalist and novelist. I ain't gonna try to pronounce all that. I can read this one in the middle. It says Trisha. As we gonna call her Trisha, alright? Writes that one of her ancestors sold slaves, but argues that he should not be judged by today's standards or values. Amazing, right? I feel like, oh, what's his name? Amazing. Who's that dude? That black dude. That be like that love,
Got one.
go ahead.
You talk about the dude that created the White History Month, Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yeah, he's like amazing. Alright. My great grandfather, these names again. Nwabani Agoku Ariaku was what I prefer to call a businessman from the Igbo ethnic group of southeastern Nigeria. The Igbo is not your people. Y'all see that, right? From the Igbo ethnic group of southeastern Nigeria, he dealt in a number of goods, including tobacco and palm produce. He also sold human beings, a side hustle. He had agents who captured slaves from different places and brought them to him, my father told me. Agogo, his slaves were sold through the ports of Calabar and Bani in the south of what today was known as Nigeria. People from ethnic groups along the coast, such as the I.S.U.P.K and I.S.U.P.K, usually acted as stevedores for the white merchants and middlemen for Igbo traders like my great-grandfather. Right? They loaded and offloaded ships and supplied the foreigners with food and other provisions. Good night. They gave them food too. They gave them you and food. They was happy to get you out of there, man. They negotiated prices for slaves from the hinterlands, and collected royalties from both the sellers and buyers. About 1.5 million Igbo slaves were shipped across the Atlantic Ocean between the 15th and 19th centuries. So about of course these numbers are always going to be off, but as we saying, 1.5 million, right? So what they call Igbo, because of course, like you go to anybody's land and you be a part of that culture, they start calling you part of them. But then they not the real people. You know what I'm saying? They know that we different from them, so they was happy to get rid of us. More than 1.5 million Africans, which was African Americans or Israelites, were shipped to what was then called the New World, the Americas, through the Calabar port in the Bight of Bani, making it one of the largest points of exits during the transatlantic trade. So here go a map right here of the slave trade right here. It's a little map. So people think that it was all coming this might not, some of it's not all the way accurate because we came from Europe too. So, but we came out of here. But the rest of us, we went down here in South America, all of these different places here, they shipped us from everywhere, right? So now they trying to that's why it's like, I don't know why people forgive them, because this woman here, you can tell people that are slaves and aren't. The people that aren't, they don't even have any type of compassion, because now it says, like this woman, she's trying to make it like, you can't be hard on them because, that's the only thing he knew. He was just doing what everybody else was doing, right? But they don't think that they should pay a price back to the people they did it to. She don't mention that not one time in this whole article about paying back. Her family, well, I ain't even get to it, but her family is still one of the richest families in Nigeria. Still to this day. right? But they don't think they should pay nothing back. They try to forget that the slave trade, like over America, we keep it going, right? But you know we make it so it's not forgetting. But over there, they act like it's not even there. Give me 1 second. All right, so like it for that. All right. Now I said a go-go lived in a time where the fittest survived and the bravest excelled. The concept of all men are created created equal, was completely alien to traditional religion and law in his society. That was complete because, you know, they don't look at us as being equal as them, right? But, you know, let's be honest, we ain't equal to them. We above them. But because of what we, you know, our sins, we now get treated below them, right? And it says it would be unfair to judge him about what happened. Let's see here. It says assessing the people of Africa's past by today's standards would compel us to cast the majority of our heroes as villains, denying us the right to fully celebrate anyone who was not influenced by Western ideology. So now they blaming the Western ideology they shouldn't put us as slaves. So they say that's a Western ideology. But you see the whole hypocrisy of this is that they still want to honor they people that did great things. They don't want to take down none of the stuff that they did, but let us do something to them. They gonna hate us, right? All right. Igbo slave traders like my great grandfather did not suffer any crisis of social acceptance or legality. They did not need any religious or scientific justification for their actions. They were just simply living a life into which they were raised. All right.
So lock out of one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, about Shimmy, I about that.
That's
To be
good,
sure,
man.
check it out.
What's going on, huh?
Not much out of one. I want to kind of piggyback off what you're saying. The topic you're on right now is so heavy. It's like, you know, they either don't want to take credit for the wickedness and stuff that they done. I mean, they'll go as far as trying to ruin somebody's career, far as, you know, something as simple as getting caught with marijuana or something like that, or break them down. But you got of athletes and you know, actors or whatnot, you know, people achievement. But at the same time, on the back end, you got serial killers and mass murders and stuff that you don't gave holidays to, and you know, parks and streets and bridges and interstates and stuff too, and you got statues of them, and you don't try to tear their reputation down. You don't try to tear their career down. Those are your heroes. So like it.
Exactly. They make them their heroes that murdered and killed people and buried people. Like I'm about to read slaves buried alive. They make them heroes, but they hate us. And see, the whole thing is they will still make you a slave right now. If they can financially do it, they will still make you a slave. They still come over here and do it. Look next door. Right? Look down the street. They come into your communities and make you a slave. You just don't, it's just not the same type of slavery you did back then, but the same as slavery. They make you a slave to them. But then we taught to love them. Like, why? Why do we taught to love them so much? It's like Africans and oppressors, we just taught to just love them so much. And they the ones that contributed the most to our slavery. And we taught to still love them. But meanwhile, hate your brothers. You know what I'm saying? This one, this is the most popular story she's heard about our great grandfather. Was how he successfully confronted officials of the British colonial government after they seized some of his slaves. So they look at him as being powerful because they seized some of his slaves, and he went back to go say something about them taking the slaves, which was us, right? The slaves were being transported by middlemen along with a consignment of tobacco and palm produce from Agogo's hometown of these names were somewhere to the coast. My great grandfather apparently did not consider it fair that his slaves had been seized. Buying and selling of human beings among the Igbo had been going on long before the Europeans arrived. Y'all hear that? This been going on long before they got there. So they was doing this like there was another slave trade. It was called the Silk Road slave trade. Y'all heard that before? It was called the Silk Road slave trade, where they was taking people from Africa over to the Middle East, right? So that was a Silk Road slave trade. So they was buying and selling slaves for a long time. And they started that thing in the 600s, man. It was like long time. They been doing that for hundreds of years. The Silk Road, then the Atlantic slave trade just like dwarfed that one, right? That's where it became like, it's like anything. Like you start selling, like, you know, we start selling something here, all of a sudden it runs its course. Then we start selling it over here. Now I start picking up. Now we back hot again. That's all it was. So it's just like any type of, you know, distribution of anything, right? Let's see here. People became slaves for a punishment for crimes, payment for debts, or prisoners of war, right? The successful sale of adults was considered an exploit for which a man was hailed by praise singers, akin to exploits in wrestling, war, or in hunting animals like the lion. Igbo slaves served as domestic servants and laborers. They were sometimes also sacrificed in religious ceremonies and buried alive with their masters to attend them in the next world. Slavery was so ingrained in the culture that a number of popular Igbo proverbs make reference to it. I'm going to read them to you. Anyone who has no slave is his own slave. A slave who looks on while a fellow slave is tied up and thrown into the grave with his master should realize that the same thing could be done to him someday. It is when the son is being given advice that the slave learns. So that's saying that he don't learn nothing unless the son of the master is getting something, right? The arrival of a European merchants offering guns, mirrors, gin, and other exotic goods in exchange for humans massively increased demand, leading people to kidnap others and sell them. Oh, there's a precept I'm going to bring out right here. See if I can find it. Can somebody give me Joel 3:3?
Joel 3:3.
Uh-huh. No, you can go to the first verse. What's going on?
Oh, I had that scripture for you, though.
Oh, no, I'm letting him read it in here. Can y'all hear him? Can y'all hear him when he reads?
Okay, sir.
All right, you can go ahead and read it. All right.
Joel 3 verse 1.
Uh-huh.
For behold, in those days, and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
So it's going to be a time we're going to be brought into that captivity, right? This is beginning of we're going to be brought back in that captivity, right? Keep going.
Verse 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel.
So he's going to plead to, he going to let them know that this is his people. Please, you think he gonna be begging? No, he ain't begging nothing, right? So this is his people and this heritage, Israel. Keep going.
For whom they have scattered among the nations.
They scattered us about, man. They scattered us in all nations, man. Who knows where they really sold? Like, we can have pockets of people all over the whole earth, man. Because they was selling us everywhere. Don't think they weren't selling us somewhere else, man. Right? He gonna plead with them in the valley of Jehoshaphat, right? Keep going.
And parted my land.
And parted his land. They parted Israel up. Made Israel, like, they took, because all of, like, Israel is a lot bigger than it is right now. Like, Israel was, like, our land that we supposed to have is a lot bigger, right? They parted this land, gave some to the Arabs, gave some to they gave it all to the Caucasians, but they gave some to the Arabs, the Palestinians, some other ones, like the Turkish on the top of Israel, Arabs on the below. They parted this land, right? Keep going.
And they have cast lots for my people.
Anybody know what cast and lots is? You know what cast lots is?
The lot out of one.
You said, is that what's this?
Lots, is that like chains or something like that?
Nah. Go ahead. On the conference call. Go ahead.
They was shooting dice. Lots.
That's part of it too. That's a way you can cast lots. There's another way you cast lots. Go ahead.
Kind of a con, they were making bets.
And making bets. So they said, you know how they do. I can't do all that fast talking. They do all that fast at the auction booths. 25 over there, 30, gotta get 30, oh, 30 over there, 35, they doing that. That's casting lots for his people. All right, keep going.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
Giving a boy for a harlot. Gave a boy for a hoe. Keep going. Oh no, it's like they turned him into a harlot. Like they made him, like a harlot is like a prostitute. They made him like a prostitute. Like they made us breed so they could sell our children. Like they'll find the strongest, most fittest man, and they would make him breed with all of the different women so they could sell with the children. Right? Keep going.
And sold a girl for wine.
And sold a girl for wine. What we just read here? The arrival of European merchants offering guns, mirrors, gin, and other exotic goods in exchange for humans massively increased demand, leading people to kidnap others and sell them. Sold us for gin, man. Right? Here's a couple little facts. European buyers tended to remain on the coast. They didn't come into Africa. African sellers bought slaves from the interior on foot. Journeys could be as long as 300 miles. Two captives were typically chained together at the ankle. They walked them down up to 300 miles. Columns of captives were tied together by ropes around their necks. 10 to 15% of captives died along the way. Right? 10 to 15%. That's before another 10 to 15% died on, because this was the whole thing. They snatched us up. They walked us to the forts. They treated us like hell at the forts. Like we was dying, like getting smaller the whole way, right? In the forest, they was treating us like hell, putting us in cages, and then they would load us up at the bottom of the ships, and we had to stay there for a year, and we dying again to only get put in even worse hell once we get over to America. To go and get treated even worse and still keep dying. See, all of this. So if you think of 15% then another 15%, another 15%, 5 times. We done lost probably half, if not more, of the people that was originally enslaved. So when they say that number of, I think they said the number of 10 million people that they brought over to America, that's how you could say it was probably more so like 50. See what I'm saying? That was brought over here, right? Now I'm not talking about the Native Americans. They treated like hell too. I'm not even talking about them. That was what they did. They went through a whole. It was similar, but they went through a different path, I guess you would put it, right? So they went through their own hell. So this is resisting abolition. The trading African people continued into 1888, when Brazil became the last country in the Western Hemisphere to abolish it. So Brazil, they was the last ones. That was the Portuguese, right? I think the Portuguese, they love you because they want to kiss on you all the time. They was running that slavery there, right? It's like when the British extended their rule to southeastern Nigeria in the late 19th century and early 20th century, they began to enforce abolition through military action, right? So the late 19th is the 1800s, in the 1800s, and the 20th century is the late 1900s. I'm sorry, in the early 20s, so that's like 1920. So they had slavery in Great Britain, Slovakia, and Brazil and all of that. They had slavery there in the 1900s. It was still slavery there. Now, I know that, didn't you? They still had slavery there in the 1900s. So, but by using force rather than persuasion, many local people, such as my great-grandfather, may not have understood that abolition was about the dignity of humankind and not a mere change in economic policy that affected demand and supply. So now they're trying to say there was a change in humankind, that they wanted to have more dignity. Now y'all know the people that have power, they don't have morals. They're amoral. Y'all know what that means is they don't have no morals. Only thing they care about is dollars, right? There was a point that I was reading. I don't know if it's in this article, but I was studying for the class that even Martin Luther King was even trying to say that how are they going to be the leader of the world while they still got slaves? That's the reason why they stopped having you as slaves, because they can't look upon as being the leader of the earth or the world, and they still treating people as slaves without something to justify it. That's why they came up with the 13th Amendment. Anybody know what the 13th Amendment says? Go ahead, huh?
About slavery besides incarceration.
Exactly. Slavery is abolished. There's no man, you can never be made into a slave unless you commit a crime. So now you commit a crime, now that makes them be able to make you as a slave. So you gotta think about how crafty they are, man. Now that makes them like, okay, I'm not looked upon as bad, even though I have the highest incarceration rate in the world. It's more people incarcerated, I think, in California than it is like the whole earth. Like I don't even think I'm exaggerating. I'm thinking I'm dead serious. I forget the numbers, but we have so much people in prison that it's ridiculous compared to the rest of the other nations, everywhere else. We got that many people in prison because they didn't want to get rid of slaves. So here's what they did. They just we can't make you a slave just because we want you to. Now let's just make some new laws, right? Let's make a law you can't get a job. We ain't even got to make a law. Let's just take away those jobs away from you, right? Let's take away the law. Let's take away the jobs. Let's get some crack, and start letting people get the crack. So then now we're gonna make crack illegal while we supplying it to you, right? Can somebody give me the book of Daniel, chapter 8? And give me verse 23.
Book of Daniel 8, verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, the king of fierce consonants and understanding dark sentences shall stand up.
Anybody know what that means? I know you know, Barack.
Right, it's kind of similar to the other scriptures. Fierce consonants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always sure of the dark sentences.
You don't know what that
I don't
means?
know what exactly that is. With Daniel 8, so I know they're getting into the to the time we in right now.
Well, technically, it's just talking about the time of the Grecians. Technically, if you look up in 21, it says Grecia. You see that verse 21? All right, it's technically talking about the Grecians, but it can be applied to now because the Grecians the same people that's ruling now, right? When it's Grecian and Roman, you can apply the same people because the same exact people, right? Same spirit, right? It's talking about Alexander the Great, all right? But it's the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. That's Alexander the Great, or the so-called Great, right? And his fear, you know what fierce countenance means? He has that fierce look in his eye, like his face is not like a pleasant face, right? Because he's an evil bastard, right? And understanding dark sentences. A dark sentence is like he understood the dark parts of the Bible, which is the things that most people don't know of the Bible, right? Hold that for me right there. Go to Judah 5 and 20. We're going to come back to that. Go to Judah 5 and 20. Judah 5 and 20. Now, I'm going to break the part down. I want to go there for time's sake. But there was a man, I forget which kingdoms it was, but he got a man from the kingdom that he was ruling over, and he said, give me a report on the Jews. And he said that, he showed about how, they were sinning, they got put into slavery. When they stopped sinning, their God came and sent them a deliverer or a savior and got them out of captivity. So he just giving a report. He talked about Moses, talked about like David, he talked about our whole history. He gave a whole report on our history, right? And that's what he says at the end of that part, right? Keep going. Whatever for Judah 5 and 20. You got it?
You mean to say not Judah?
Judith.
Judith, okay.
Like, I mean, when I first heard the scripture, bro, this the scripture that messed me up. This right here, when I was first like learning about I was Israelite, it's always been one of my favorite scriptures. This how I knew that's why I knew we was Israelites. You got it? Go ahead.
Judah 5:20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their ruin.
So he said to his person he reports to, right? His Lord and Governor. If there's any error, if they sinning, this will be their ruin. Right? We could come and take over. Keep going.
And let us go up, and we shall overcome them.
Let us go up. We're going to overcome them. We're going to rule over these people. If we could find sin among them, we could go up and rule over these people. Read the next one.
Verse 21. But if there be no iniquity in their nation,
So he said, but now if they ain't got no sin going on, this is what you do. Keep going.
let my Lord now pass by.
Pass by. Leave they behind alone. Right?
Lest their Lord defend
Yeah,
them.
lest the Lord defend them. So if we don't have no sin, our God is going to defend us. If they can't find no sin, our God is going to defend us. Keep going.
And their God be for them.
And our God, he going to be for us. Right? He not going to, because when we sin, God is for our oppressors. But when we stop sinning, our God is for us. Keep going.
And we become a reproach before all the world.
And they become a reproach. That means like a laughing stock. That means like this small nation of people, if you, it's like, think about this right now. Because, I always like to take it, to something that you can think about it in today, right? Let's think of right now how little we thought of as black people. Let's say we went to war with our oppressor. We had no sin in our nation and we won. Everybody gonna think they can come and whip on them now, on our oppressor. That's what a reproach is. They're gonna become a reproach for the whole earth, right? The rest of the world. That's how you look at that. All right, let's go back to Daniel 8:24. All right.
Daniel 8:24.
Yep.
And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy and the holy people.
He's gonna be prosperous, right? They call him the greatest military general that ever existed, right? They call him one of the greatest military generals, right? And he's gonna destroy the mighty and the holy people. He's gonna destroy the Israelites. Keep going.
And through his policy.
His policy.
Also,
What is policy?
law.
Exactly. His laws. That's how he separated us from the Native Americans. His policy, his laws. Right? Keep going.
And through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
Craft. So he makes crafty laws. That's how he keeps us in prison. He makes crafty laws. Remember y'all remember that time they was trying to make it illegal to SAG?
Come.
Y'all remember that? Who is that gonna affect?
Judah.
Exactly.
Israel, the whole Israel. Men.
Yeah, it's not illegal like to have like Oxycontin like that, right? But it's illegal to have weed,
Right.
right? But it's all the same. It's all drugs.
Right.
Cocaine is the same thing as Oxycontin. Same thing. But if one is illegal, one isn't. What's the stuff they used to do back in the 80s? The one that Quaaludes, yep. Quaaludes. You know what I'm saying? Quaaludes, that was completely legal. Y'all know about Quaaludes? Y'all heard about that before? Everybody did Quaaludes. All the rich and famous. That was like the cocaine of the 70s and 80s. It started out because they was giving it to the women. I'm probably getting a little off, but I mean, the history is my favorite subject, in case y'all can't tell. But they was giving it to women like they was going through like stress and anxiety. They was giving it to Caucasian women when their husband was like going off to war. Because this came after Vietnam. Y'all got to think, all of these things, they was getting them, like, man, I could talk about this forever. But they was getting these drugs from Vietnam area. So they could go into Vietnam They was trying to get the drugs over there. They was getting the drugs over there. They had to take it somewhere. That's where cocaine came from. Over there. Crack, over there. That's how they was able to go into Vietnam. You can't go into a country unless you friends with the people around the country. And what's their biggest export? Drugs. They bought drugs from them. Look, it was reports about a whole shitloads of drugs coming over to America. And what do you think they did with them? It just so happened in the late 70s and 80s, we had a crack epidemic. Right? And what's their biggest export? Cocaine. It's coincidental, right? What a coincidence, right?
Right.
So,
It's a lot.
go ahead.
Like they say, the DEA selling all the game.
Exactly. They selling it, man. They put on the military cargo ships, so they bring it back over here. On them top secret missions, they don't know. They had them little things covered up in tarps. You don't know what's in there? Cocaine. I think one time I brought out a story, man. Chase Bank, one of their cruise ships they own, they found 40 tons of cocaine in there. 40 tons of cocaine. That's 80,000 pounds, in case y'all don't know. Of cocaine. That's a lot of coke. And you think that they didn't know? You think Chase Bank didn't know? Come on. Do you know how much that is? Like, you don't think about how much is that? 40 tons of cocaine? Like, I used to drive trucks, man. 40 tons goes in a whole truck. That's one truck. One truckload of cocaine. 40, that's 20 tons. That's 40,000 pounds. They had 2 truckloads in there. The people was probably getting high. Wasn't even, the rest of it, they probably at the top of the ship getting high. That's how much cocaine this was, man. So that's what they do. They make laws to make you become a slave. They do that to make themselves prosper. They just make a law. They ain't gotta make you a slave. They just make a law. Right?
Right.
All right, keep going.
And he shall magnify himself in his heart,
Mm-hmm.
and by peace shall destroy many.
Anybody know what that means?
He gonna present like he coming to like some big peaceful
Exactly.
person, like they do with like they did with Central Borgia,
Mhm.
coming in name and really
Yep.
starting meetings.
Christianity, it'll come with that peace. Make like we only came to love. We come to spread love, man. Nothing but peace, right? Keep going.
He shall also stand up against the prince of princes.
Oh yeah, he gonna use that peace. He gonna destroy many people, man. Destroy many people with trying to come in peace. He gonna stand up against the prince of princes, right? He gonna come up against anybody. He gonna come up against God. He gonna come against Christ. That's the prince of princes. He gonna come up against Christ. Keep going.
But he shall be broken without hand.
He gonna be broken without hand. He died of syphilis, man. Broken without hand. Like I said, it's talking about Alexander. That's the same gonna happen with our so-called oppressed. Gonna be broken without. We ain't even have to lay a hand on him. He gonna be broken. He breaking them now. All right. Anybody got any questions on that so far? I don't know. Everybody's calling me today. I don't understand this.
Like,
What's up?
yeah, it's just like the crack laws, cocaine. When they found out that Judah was dealing with the crack in the ghettos or whatever, and just like two little small teardrops of crack, you get more time than that than get a grocery bag of cocaine because
Oh yeah.
more the Edomites were dealing with the
Mm-hmm.
the Richie cocaine, what they call it, or whatever. It's on the books. They just changed that a few years ago.
Yep. You'll go to jail more for crack than you do for cocaine. And like crack, I don't think you really overdose on crack. I think everybody's thing is different, but if I'm not mistaken, like I was looking somewhere, like it's harder to overdose on crack, but cocaine is a whole lot easier.
Right.
So I don't know. I ain't never did it, so I don't never know. But I'm just saying that's what I heard. I'm not saying it's true.
Look like it does.
But yeah, man. So that's what I heard. That crack is actually because it's watered down. It's not even pure cocaine. And pure cocaine is you overdosing on that. But because that's like you said, that's what famous people do is cocaine. They don't, they can't make, they can't let the the politicians, they can't go to jail the rest of their life for having that. So come on now, y'all can look at George Bush and you can tell he did cocaine before in his life. Just by the way he talked, he did a whole lot of cocaine. All of them with Bill Clinton. I even think Obama did. I heard Obama did cocaine. Yeah, or he did cocaine. All the politicians, man. But they say crack is whack. Man. All of them did that. All right. All right, let's see here. See what I want to talk about. Okay. Now this is slave trade in the 20th century. They were still selling slaves in the 1900s, right? Acclaimed Igbo historian, these names again, I.S.U.P.K, described the slave trade in the southeastern Nigeria, which lasted into the late 1940s and 50s. As one of the best kept secrets of the British colonial administration.
So, where was that at?
What was that?
The 1940. What location was that?
Southeastern Nigeria.
Okay. Come.
While the international trade ended, local trade continued. They were still trying to sell you then. They had gotten most of all about it. They still selling. All the devils and all of them said, we gonna, it's wrong. We gonna stop selling slaves. Them Africans, nah, we still gotta get you. Still want you to be slaves. They kept it going longer than our oppressors did. Right? The government was aware that the fact that the coastal chiefs and the major coastal traders had continued to buy slaves from the interior, wrote I.S.U.P.K in the abolition of the slave trade in southern Nigeria from 1885 to 1950. He added that the British tolerated the ongoing trade on political and economic grounds. More economic, probably. He said British traders were at the heart of the slave trade before the UK government abolished the trade. They needed slave trading chiefs for effective local governance and for the expansion of growth of legitimate trade. Sometimes they also turned a blind eye rather than jeopardize a useful alliance, as seems to have been the case when they returned a go-go slave. So it's not, they don't want to get rid of that alliance with the people, with that nation, because they want to get, it's a lot of resources in Africa, so they want to get those resources. Like Europe don't have no resources, right? They want to get those resources. They want to keep that alliance with them, because you remember this says with what do Psalms 83 though? What does Psalms 83 say? All of them came together, right? Psalms 83. I'll go to it real quick. It says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult. They make like a loud noise as a tumult is, like a loud gathering." Can't think of the exact word I'm trying to think of. but they made a tumult and consulted against thy hidden ones. They consulted against thy hidden ones, right? They have said, come us, let them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against it. That means they are against you. They're confederate. They against us. Like you had the Union and the Confederate. They was against the Union, right? They confederate against us, right? And they named all of these nations: Edom, Ishmael, Moab, Africans, Ammon, Amalek, all of them, right? So yeah, all these nations came up against us. So I'm gonna see if I can find the Arabs part, maybe next week. But this is the Africans part. So why do we want to be Africa so bad? And you see, they had a high part of it. They was the beginning part of us being a slave. They was enslaving us before and after our oppressor, right? They had the Silk Road slave trade, and after, like the Caucasians was done. We like, okay, we done with slaves now. They're like, come on, man, I got some more, and they still trying to sell us, man. All right, let's see here. No questions at all? Anybody got any questions that you want to say? All right.
So
Go ahead.
the whole Hebrew thing, I seen breakdowns on that. When they, when you first come into find out you an Israelite, you're on the internet learning and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of tell you that Shanti and the Hebrew or whatever. That's where we come from. And then they break down to the 12 tribes of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
I know breakdowns on. I heard breakdowns on, of course, on how we definitely not the Hebrew. What would be like a more of a exact way to explain that, somebody coming in and learning, because they're gonna see it on the internet when the first thing they see.
How to tell them that we're not Igbo?
Yeah, that we're not the Igbo. They're like, oh yeah, okay, we come from the Igbo people. That's what most of the slaves come from.
Okay, well, you can put it on where you see that the Igbo people was the one trading us, right?
Trade, okay.
Igbo, they was the ones gathering us up. And you see they also said they didn't see us as the same tribe as them. So if we was the same tribe as them, they say we were Igbo, something got to be different, right?
Right.
Just like we AT-aliens, right? But some of us ain't real AT-aliens, right? Some of us from different places. I'm from Ohio. You know what I'm saying? You got brothers from Jersey, right? We not natives there, but we AT-aliens now, right? Well, I'm just use that example, of course. But that's how it is. So, but just because, but if you come to Atlanta, shoot, it's probably more Asian people than it is us. Especially where I live at. So, but they ain't the same as us. So that's all it was. We were just living in their land. So, but it say that they were the ones. They was one of our primary captors was the Igbo people. And you see, they also said they was a cell of their own tribes people. So what does that mean? They had people that lived among them that did cultural things similar to them, but they didn't see them as the same tribe. What do blacks and Hispanics always do? They go somewhere, they be like everybody else. That's why they called us the Hellenistic Jews, the Hellenes, or a lot of times it says Greek in the Old Testament or Gentile. When it was referring to Israelites, that's the real word there is Hellenes, which means we was in Greek, learning like the Grecians, but we were not the Grecians. They kept us separate, but we was in amongst them, right? We were still slaves with them. She okay. She just had a long day. Yeah, look, they all had a long day. He's slobbing on the chair over there. Oh, yeah. All right. Now, the house where I grew, this is this person talking. The house where they grew up and where parents still live sits on a piece of land that has been in their family for over a century. It was once the site of Agogo's guest house where he hosted visiting British officials. They sent him envelopes containing snippets of their hair. That's nasty. To let them know whenever they were due to arrive. Agogo died sometime in the early 20th century. He left behind dozens of wives and children. No photographs exist of him, but he was said to have been remarkably light-skinned. In December 2017, a church over there in Nigeria was celebrating its centenary and invited my family to receive a posthumous award on his behalf. So after all that, he sold black people, they get a award. Y'all still love them Africans now? They put you as slaves, treated you like hell, gathered you up, your women, children, all of that, buried you, right? Walked you 300 miles. 15 to 20% of y'all died along there. To only another, every time y'all went to the next stage, another 15 to 20% or even more died. They did all of this to y'all, and he gets an award. They get an award. And they so proud of it, they put it on there to show you. They that proud, they put it on there to show you. So, man. And he said, this person's great-grandfather was renowned for their business prowess, outstanding boldness, strong leadership, vast influence, immense contributions to society, and of course, the advancement of Christianity. The Igbo do not have a culture of erecting monuments to their heroes. Otherwise, one dedicated to might have stood somewhere in that region today. He was respected by everyone around, this person's father said. Even the white people respected him. All right, any questions at all? Trying to see anything else I want to bring out on here. I had like 5 articles. Man. Y'all want to keep going, or y'all kind of tired? Y'all be honest. Let me see. Let me see if I can shorten this one up. All right. I'm gonna say this one. All right, well, I think we pretty much covered a lot of this in here anyway. All right, no questions at all? Nobody got anything to say? All right, I'm going to bring up a couple of scriptures that we going to call it a day. All right? Can you give me 2 Peter 2 and 3?
Second Peter 2, verse 3, and through covetousness shall they with fine words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time.
Y'all know what that means? Y'all know what that means?
Make merchandise?
No, the other part, the rest of it. Do covetousness
Oh,
and feign. They were feigned words.
no, covetousness is, they want what we got.
And they want something that they don't have. That's not theirs.
Right.
What does feigned words mean? Lies. It means lies. So like them telling lies about us, and they make merchandise of you. So now they made you something that they can buy and sell. They still making merchandise of us, right? That's why they come into the ghetto and sell you. They sell you weave and eyelashes, and they braid your hair so tight, you know, people can see what you're thinking. You know what I'm saying? I suggest no sisters go to get their hair braided by an African. You worried about your edges now? And you know that's why you don't see no Africans with edges. All their hairlines start back here, braiding the hell out their hair, right? Keep going.
Whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not,
Mm-hmm.
and their damnation slumbereth not.
So they judgment is not gonna linger. It's gonna come. They're gonna get a judgment, right? I can bring out scripts on this all day, but I'm let me see. Let's read Zechariah from 11 to 5. We don't call it tonight.
Zechariah 11, verse 5. Whose possessor slayed them.
What that lady say?
Whose possessors.
Yeah, the possessor slayed them, right? The people that possessed us, they slayed us. They killed us. Made us walk 300 miles. 15% of us dead. They just buried us there. Killed children and all of that, right? And keep going.
And hold themselves not guilty.
And like I said, what did the lady say? She said you can't hold her grandfather to standards that they had back there, the standards they have now. He's not guilty. He's a great businessman of his time. Keep going.
And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord.
Well, he brought Christianity in, didn't he? Blessed be the Lord. Blessed be Caesar Borgia, right? Keep going.
For I am rich.
For I am rich. Blessed be the Caesar. I'm rich. Keep going.
And their own shepherds pity them not.
And our own shepherds, people we got set up as leaders, they don't pity what we're going through, right? They don't pity none of that. All right, no questions? Everybody good? Nobody want to bring out? All right, with that, pass the class over to Priest and Officer Pakiaba.
Should I get one announcement?
That's it, man.
The back. Officer Baraki Allah do the security at I.S.U.P.K. security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K. started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for a new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They'll be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There in another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 months period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry.
Tithes, which is the commandments, come out of Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10, means tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashra. 10% of every penny of any increase that the Lord gives you. Give to the treasury department or teacher. There also the priest fund is a free will offering for priests. It's not mandatory. Whatever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations is the feast of dedication is Hanukkah. Starting Sunday, November 28th. It is 8 days of the feast of dedication. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots. That include boots, shirts, pants, headbands, /scarf, and come down to camp, which is 5 points. MARTA station. We're in front of. Everybody, sorry, I mean stand in Hebrew. We're gonna salute the Majah Slaki. We're gonna salute the teacher. First with the men of Israel, Majah Shabbat, Majah, Barak, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shabbat.
Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shabbat.
All right, and to the ladies, Majah, Amatah. All right, we're gonna salute. Yahweh Shema Alatah, by Hashem Yahweh Shah. All right, all right, and that concludes the class. Shalom on Christ.